What we stress in every eval is SDS. So stress, diet, sleep. How are you managing your stress? Are you doing it through exercise? Are you doing it through alcohol, vaping? Are you doing it through bad habits, right? So let's try and get your habits on track to manage your stress, keep cortisol levels down, inflammatory factors down, and let's put your body at the best advantage it can. Diet, we try and keep it simple. We use the plate method. Half of it is gonna be nice, green, dark leafy, colorful vegetables. A quarter of it's going to be your lean protein. Another quarter is going to be a nice complex carb. So sleep, we're trying to have people obtain quality sleep and then quantity of sleep. But rather you get 5.5 hours of high quality sleep that's uninterrupted and your heart rate's dropping nice and low with some heart rate variability, and then adding on your hours on top of that.
Welcome back to New York's Business Podcast. My name is Jacob Restituto. I'm the host and owner of Restituto Media, a full-service photo and video company here based on Long Island. Today I'm with Patrick Gathman, Northport native, just as am I, the owner and founder of Movement Headquarters Physical Therapy. So thank you for taking the time. Looking forward to hearing your story and looking forward to hearing all your business journey. So
awesome. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So for people that aren't familiar with you and your story and your business, can you kind of get a little backstory on you and then also how you got into your business?
Absolutely. Grew up in Northport, can't get away, came on back. I went to physical therapy school locally here in Stony Brook. So I went to Stony Brook DPT program, graduated in 2019. And throughout my time at Stony Brook, I realized what healthcare was and what it wasn't, and what I want my career path to be. And I realized that that was not within the traditional insurance-based model. So we got to work. I didn't start this right away out of school. I wanted to learn the trade of physical therapy. So I ended up working for someone locally in Hot Pot and the insurance-based model of physical therapy, which is a little different than the way we like to do things. You know, we have a little bit more constraints, but there's definitely a need for it at times. But basically I churned away, I worked, and I don't really know how we want to do this. All right. But basically, I worked for someone for quite some time, and I learned the ins and outs of physical therapy and where I thought we should be as healthcare providers and what patients deserved. And seeing them for 5 to 10 minutes and moving on to the next one wasn't really fair to them or fair to me. Patients don't get better with low quality care, and I get burnt out from writing 100 notes. So it's a lose-lose situation. So basically, I pivoted and created Movement Headquarters Physical Therapy. So instead of seeing 4 to 5 people an hour and taking in their insurance, we see everyone for one-on-one as an out-of-network provider, and we're able to focus on people's overall health and wellness rather than just focusing on their knee pain. So you come in and you want to address knee pain to get back to running in a marathon, we're going to work on that from a full body approach and go about it that way.
Yeah, very interesting. So tell me a little bit about what differentiates you as an out-of-network provider versus somebody that goes through insurance. So you obviously just said that, you know, you're a lot more whole body holistic, but can you go a little deeper into the actual, like, what does the insurance side of it look like and why did that bother you?
Yeah. So I think there is always a need for insurance, and people need to use their health insurance, and it's the affordable option most of the time. But unfortunately, insurance companies put healthcare providers at a disadvantage from a quality of care perspective, meaning they reimbursement rates get less and less every year for the same services that we render. So if I want to keep the lights on in a building, we need to see about 4 people an hour if you're an insurance-based model per provider, right? So you only have so much time to spend with that person. So that's not really fair to you as the patient or me as the provider. So instead, we flip that to be out of network. So out of network reimbursement, we can charge what we want. The patient gets reimbursed on their end, whatever their insurance allows for. So now we can charge what we need to charge to run a sustainable model and give this highest quality care as possible.
Do most of your patients run out of network, or do most of your patients just pay out of pocket?
We do our best to help everyone get reimbursed out of network if they have those benefits. Some insurance plans don't, so that's when we use the private pay option.
Tell me about how you found your space.
Yeah, so I was looking around everywhere, basically. I started inside of Cow Harbor CrossFit. So the very end of 2019 or early 2020, right during the pandemic, um, I launched out of the corner of Cow Harbor CrossFit in their gym, and then the whole world shut down. So thank goodness physical therapy was a medical necessity. So we were able to keep operating while the gym wasn't in operation, but we could still see patients using all the COVID parameters, right? Um, and then eventually we grew to a point, or I grew to a point where I couldn't see patients out of there anymore because we needed more space, right? So I searched and searched and searched, and we learned that Britannia was opening up spaces for non-marine businesses, and we hopped in it.
Yeah, beautiful. Who's your typical clientele?
Typical clientele, any active individual that has goals. So is it the college athlete that wants to stay in the field? Is it your grandfather that wants to be able to pick up the grandchild in the pool? Or is it an active adult that wants to run their next marathon? So anyone that has a goal that's activity related or wants to get out of pain is someone that we can hopefully help. But we have a large array of the golfing population because we do a lot of golf fitness with Titleist Performance Institute, and then we also are now getting into the high school sports.
So you said, sorry, you working with a lot of golfers, but then you named the company or named the program.
Yeah,
What was the name of that?
Titleist Performance Institute.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So are they another company or?
yeah. So Titleist Performance Institute is an organization of physical therapists, chiropractors, and golfers, and they created this continuing education platform.
Oh wow.
And they have different levels. So there's like level 1, level 2, level 3, and they have them for the personal trainer, the medical provider, or the golfer themselves. And we utilize their movement assessment tool to screen golfers, identify any mobility limitations or strength deficits, and then use that as creating some of our groundwork to create their golf fitness program.
What is a typical uh, diagnosis, I guess, or not diagnosis, screening look like? I come into you, hi, my name's Jacob. I have pain in my forearm. What would be your typical process? Because you say your whole body, which I think is really
Yeah.
interesting. So what does that look like?
Yeah. So the first thing that we do when someone walks in the door is we actually pull out a body chart and we say, hey, what are you feeling? How are you feeling it? Where are you feeling it? We get the facts down first, and that gives us so much more of an opportunity to sit down and have more of a casual, fluent conversation later on because now I know the facts and now I can learn about you. So in the out of network model, we're able to spend a full 45 plus minutes talking about you, your pain, your goals, what you're dealing with. And 9 out of 10 times, we get the answers we need from the conversation, not even from the physical exam. So having the time is a luxury in that sense because we can identify the root cause of your pain and create a efficient game plan moving forward instead of rushing the subjective, not being able to hear you and your voice and what's you've been dealing with. And now we're just coming up with a plan, and we always have to go back and circle back and make a new plan. It's nice to assess it first and not just guess.
What would be an example of whole body? So, for example, somebody comes in, let's use a golfer, for example. What's a typical injury for a golfer?
Golfers have a lot of low back pain and then lead side injury pain. So if
Okay.
you're a righty, that left side of your body.
Okay. So say they're coming in with the lower back pain. What would be the whole body approach into healing that?
Yeah, so the cool thing about TPI, that assessment that we talked about, is they're assessing us from head to toe. So we're going to look at how do your ankles and toes move? How does your knees move? Hips, spine, shoulders, elbows, hands. So there's a famous tour player, John Ram. I'm not sure if you know him, but he was born with club foot, right? So his ankle is significantly limited in mobility. So that actually affects how far his shoulder turn is, how far his backswing is. And most people don't think that your ankle is going to affect your shoulder, but it's a cool, famous example of how it does.
I heard an interesting podcast recently because I'm very interested in I wouldn't say the healthcare industry, but just the health industry. Like I manage a small farm. I grow a lot of my own produce, and we buy a whole cow. Like very, very. I don't know what the word would be. A homestead, like I guess you could say, right? Have chickens, the whole deal.
Yeah.
But I was listening to a podcast, and in this podcast, this lady was talking about how the medical industry has become so segmented, and everybody the problem with there's pros and cons to everything, but the con of specialization is that you become so hyper specialized in your field that it becomes an echo chamber of, oh, if there's a problem with the ear, it must be the ear. Let's operate on the ear. Where oftentimes, for example, a perfect example would be my daughter had a cough recently, and a cough that wouldn't go away, and she didn't have a fever, she didn't have anything. And so I was after a while, I was like, all right, let's take her to the doctor, and it turns out she had an ear infection. I would have never thought her ear infection would have caused a cough, but they're all connected. You know, there's whatever that's causing the ear infection is now, I guess, mucus is dripping down, which is creating the cough, You know, so, but you know, if we the hyper focus on things can then lead to like
Yeah.
misdiagnoses because you're only thinking about what the ear could be, what the issue could be with, or the cough, right? Oh, let's just give medication for the cough, but like she could still have the ear infection. We didn't have no idea, right? So I really appreciate the whole body approach. I think that it's the way things should be done. And I kind of joke that I would love to move to a small town where there's the doctor that just knows everything. You know what I mean? Like the doctor that treats everything rather than going out. You ever hear of intersection syndrome?
Yes, sir.
I was
Common
just
in weightlifters.
Is it
Yeah.
okay? Um, well, I just got diagnosed with intersection syndrome. Apparently, super rare,
Yeah, it's not that common. Yeah.
it's something that I'm not proud to say because it was hurt so bad for the audience. Or actually, can you tell me? You tell me what it is. I guess for the audience.
Yeah,
So
so
you
we
tell
have
me
a
what they're
couple
talking.
tendons that run down our arm, and two of them cross over each other, and the friction of that from overuse or underuse gives you pain and swelling.
Yes, underuse too.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
So
So
I guess I from a lot of things. I'm at the gym 6 or 7 days a week, but not always doing forearm stuff, right? Or weightlifting stuff. But between that, I've been a guitar player for 15 years. So I wonder. My dad mentioned that. I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. But I think what set it off is I moved 15 yard of dirt,
okay, so
and
I'm not sure.
after a lot of shoveling and that motion right here, and after that, I was like, wow, I'm in a lot of pain. You could feel it squeaking, and not anymore, but it was squeaking. It was crazy. But that being said, I got the runaround. You know, I went to after a while of pain, my wife was like, "You have to go see somebody." I'm
Good.
like, "Fine, okay, I'll go see somebody." So I went to an urgent care, and then they sent me to somebody else, and then like it's just
Yeah,
the whole run. I got X-rays at the urgent care, and then I got then the I guess PA saw me there, and they didn't really know what it was, or actually they kind of misdiagnosed me. They thought it was a pulmonary. No, I'm sorry, a muscular contusion,
okay.
which is fine. They're doing the best that they had. But as soon as I saw the orthopedist, he was like, "Oh, it's definitely intersection syndrome." But again, it was kind of that whole runaround
Yeah,
of like having to see all these different doctors, all these different appointments, and I kind of missed the idea. Not that I really ever experienced, but the idea of like, oh, the doctor knew everything, you know. And
which is nice.
I don't know. I'm kind of going on a rant here for
No,
my
yeah,
own personal thing, but I'd love to hear your perspective on that because again, it's kind of what you were saying with the
yeah.
whole body.
No, we joke in our clinic like if you have back pain and you go to a back doctor, they're gonna say you have something going on in your lumbar spine. If you have back pain and you go to a hip doctor, they're gonna say it's probably coming from your hip. So we always joke saying wherever you go is probably what you're gonna get. So it's nice to go to that well-rounded individual that sees that whole body. So we have a couple sports medicine physicians that when you walk in, they see the neck, they see the ankle, they see the knee, and they don't have to just dial in on their one thing, which we appreciate, at least in our field.
Yeah.
One thing that we try and push is try PT first. In New York State, we have direct access. You do not need a prescription for PT. Why don't you go to the guy that is looking at all these musculoskeletal conditions on a daily basis?
PT is in physical therapy.
Yeah.
So can you explain about the New York State? What is the direct access?
Yeah, so in New York State, you're allowed to go straight to a physical therapist. You don't need to see a doctor first. They made us get our doctorate in physical therapy for a reason. We might as well use it so we can diagnose and assess and see what's going on with you. And you're not wasting time spending that big copay at urgent care, getting the x-ray you probably didn't need. Um, and then you're just skipping the steps and you just get to where you need to be. You get your plan, and then hopefully you're out of pain sooner. And it actually saves your insurance money at the end of the day.
Yeah, very interesting. So you said that New York State requires essentially to become a doctor in this. Are you Patrick Gathman, MD?
I am not. I am Patrick Gathman, Doctor of Physical Therapy.
Oh, very
So
interesting.
DPT.
Very interesting. So tell me about the employee process. How many is it? I'm assuming it's not just you the way you're speaking. So how many do you have people under you, and what does that look like?
So over the last 5 years, we've grown the team. Um, we now have about 7 employees. So we're getting to the point where we're able to work together and bounce ideas off of each other and do what's best for each other rather than just scrambling around like there's a fire in the office every day. So it's a nice place to be.
Yeah. So the way that I found your business is actually through my wife. She, I guess, follows your social media on your business social media online, and she's like, he's really active. You should reach out and see if he'd be interested in coming on. So that being said, I would like to hear about your social media strategy because I think that
Yeah.
social media is underlooked for a lot of people and a lot of businesses, particularly small businesses. Even large businesses don't particularly do it well. So, but for her to think of you for the podcast, I think was really interesting. I found that really interesting. So, tell me about your social media strategy.
Yeah, so we have worked with some different companies over the years, and everyone has a different strategy, and we love that, and we've learned a lot from it. Um, we've also learned that working with many social media companies is very rewarding, but it's tough to have that ROI for us at times if we're not in it for the long game. So right now we're doing all the social media on our own, and we try to do a nice combination of showing what's going on in the clinic hands-on wise, what's going on behind the scenes wise, so that people see the personalities behind the treatments, and then what events we're doing. So combination of events, hands-on, informational, and then the behind the scenes, like meet your therapist type of thing.
Talk about the ROI. So you're saying that when you, or actually, I'll let you explain it. I'm curious what that meant for you. You had a hard time seeing the ROI sometimes
Yeah.
with the companies versus by yourself. And then I also want to hear about the ROI and just social media in general. If you found an ROI or if you haven't found an ROI.
Yeah, so in terms of running a small business, our margins aren't like a huge corporations are, and we have to budget and money that we put in, we need to see some type of return back to make it worthwhile for something at least to grow in the future, right? So if we're going to be putting X amount of dollars into social media, hopefully within 6 to 12 months, we're at least getting a good chunk of that back with influx of patients. So based on our experience, we haven't been able to really dive into that niche, and our industry is way more word of mouth based, meaning you hurt your knee, we fix your knee, your buddy gets knee pain, you're gonna say, hey, go check them out. So that tends to be a little bit more effective for us as our small business, but we're definitely still eager to learn more about social media strategies and how we can leverage those.
Social media is a very interesting thing, and it's a very fickle thing, in the sense that, for example, we'll just use a restaurant for business, or for an example. There's a million restaurants out there, and a lot of them are on social media, and some of them do incredibly, incredibly well, and some of them really don't on social media. Some of them are really busy regardless of social media, and some of them have a great presence but are not busy. And it's just really interesting to see what works and what doesn't work for the business. For example, there's this YouTube channel I just recently came across. It was a food channel, like a restaurant. The guy just talks about how he makes his recipes, and it's really nothing spectacular, but it's getting like 1 million views, every short. And I look at it, I'm like, I mean, good for them, and it's definitely blowing up the business because like it's in like Montreal, and like I even want to go visit it. You know what I mean? But it's like also like, wow, like why this business as opposed to any other? Because like it's really not that spectacular, and like the food is fine, but it's also not like Michelin star food where it's like, wow, this is incredible. So it is also very interesting. I'm sure it's the same in your industry where there are people that are blown up with in the PT industry, and you're also like, I wonder why them, but also you could. My personality and the way I believe is every post is another at bat, and you have to be at bat to hit a home run.
Yeah.
So if you're not at bat, you know have the opportunity to hit a run, and every post is an opportunity for you to that could be the ticker, where it finally tips the scales.
Yeah. I've over the years I've learned that sometimes when someone has 250,000 followers, it doesn't always directly correlate to their actual success in business. So I'm wondering how people leverage their followers to work for their business and with their business, and how that works at times too. I saw a post I've been following this female physical therapist for a while. I love what she does pelvic floor wise, and she's got a couple 100,000 followers, and she's like, just had my first week of reaching 20 people in a week. I'm like, if we had 20 people in a week, we would be out of business. So I'm like, I view you as like this successful idea of what physical therapy is, and you're still like in the early stage of your business. So it's like You know,
Yeah, that's
how
really
do you
interesting. Yeah,
how do you
exactly.
value that? You
But
know.
also, you said hundreds of thousands of followers, and her business is very slow compared to yours. But so what do you see going forward? What does the business look like for you? What does the industry look like for you?
Yeah, I think it's exciting times in healthcare because it's so volatile in a sense and changing. I think people are educating themselves on what they deserve and what they need and what is going to get them back to doing what they want to do if they have pain or injury. So I think we're in a nice place where out of network rehab is becoming more popular, and we were sort of on that early front of it. And people are realizing that if I put in X dollars, I'm going to get this result. And it's pretty cool if my insurance pays me back too.
Yeah.
You know?
I'd like to hear your perspective on the shift in culture. You kind of started to hint at it, but I want to hear a little bit more about it with how the medical and medicine industry is kind of starting to change. I think post COVID, I think people have started to question things and how things are going, and even just, or I think that it opened our eyes to like, oh wow, the food industry is really killing us, or and not I'm not saying everybody believes this, but a lot of people are starting to question these things, and oh, the medical industry maybe doesn't necessarily have my best interest in mind, and they're starting to look at alternative routes rather than just, oh, let me just go on this medicine to make my my forearm feel better. Let me see if I could actually find a more holistic way. Are you finding that trend in your industry, and how are you finding it affects you?
Yeah, I think people are doing a better job of educating themselves on what's best for them and eating local organic foods, well-rounded diet tends to keep away most chronic diseases along with a splash of exercise. And if we can get off medications and eat well, you're probably not going to need your physician more than once a year if you're taking care of yourself, right? I mean, granted, we all have past medical histories, but if you're young, healthy, you eat well, you exercise, you're in pretty darn good shape. And we need to shift away from relying on the quick fix, right? So if you want to lose 20 pounds, how are you going to do that? Are you going to work hard and eat healthy and exercise and do it the right way? Or are we going to rely on medications to get you there? So I think we're fighting different industries and we're going to do our best to fight the good fight and do what's best for people.
Tell me a little bit on the back end. The 7 employees, are they like W-2 employees or the W-9, like subcontractors? How do you structure that business?
Yeah, so right now everyone on our team is a W-2 employee.
So it's an hourly rate kind of thing?
Yep.
Wow, very interesting.
So the way we work in our model is you get paid for what you do, so every patient you see, you get X amount of dollars. And the goal is to fill your schedule because ideally working in movement headquarters model of one-on-one is the best lifestyle that you're going to have as a physical therapist. You get to help your patients get better while not burning out on your end. So we try and do everything by the books and keep it that way.
So are you encouraging them to bring in patients, or is it like that you have your own influx of patients and you say, hey, Jimmy, take this person. Hey, Sarah, take this person. How does that work?
A combination of both, right? So our Northport office is our busiest office right now.
I
So
didn't
we
realize
have,
you had multiple. So just tell me about
yeah.
that. How many offices do you have?
So I opened up movement headquarters in Northport in September of 21. My first employee is Dr. John Spirito. He came on, he grew his role super fast and crushed it. He was like, "Do you want to open up more offices?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we partnered up. We opened up East Talkit, and then we opened up Babylon together.
Wow.
So we're in those together, and we've been trying to grow it that way. So we had first hired another therapist for East Talkit. When we opened up Babylon, we got another therapist for there. He's also a coach at the CrossFit gym that we rent from. So it's a nice mix of putting people in the right places so that they have the opportunity to get their own clientele and trying to build our brand so that people come to movement headquarters and we can then best match them with a therapist that fits them best.
Very interesting. So I'm sorry I interrupted you about that. You said you were talking about your Northport office being your largest, and then with the employee structure.
Yeah, so our Northport office is a nice mix and match what you said, an influx of people coming in from wanting to work with someone on movement headquarters team, and two therapists creating their own reputation. We're saying, hey, I want to come and work in with Dr. Scott, or I want to work with Dr. John. And it's nice to see that we're all providing our own value, and it's not just come see Dr. Pat, come see, everyone can provide value in their own way.
Yeah, very interesting. I think one of the best ways to build trust with an audience is sharing things to prevent people from seeing you. Because if you're like, oh, he first of all knows what he's doing, and second of all, he's not just in it for the money. For example, I go to a chiropractor, and I'm not one of those guys that says, oh my gosh, chiropractors fix everything, but they definitely fixed what was going on with me. I was having tremendous pain from running and a couple of other things. But point of the story is like one of the things that really made an impact on me is the first time I met him, he's like, all right, based on your condition, I want to see you 3 times a week for 3 weeks. And after this, the second time, or the first or second time of the second week, he's like, all right, you're healing better than I expected. Come back to me in a week. You don't need the other two. I was like, wow.
That's nice.
Like, first of all, thank God I'm healing better. But second of all, like, he actually cares about my recovery more than just, like, he very well could have just taken the other 4 appointments that, we were scheduled for, but he said, you don't need them. And I was like, that was 8 years ago. And I still go to this guy now on like a relatively regular basis. And it made such, and that, here it is 8 years, I'm still telling that story.
And I think that's the right way to do business, is get someone better as fast as they can so that they tell their friends and family about you, rather than saying you need to come in 3 times a week for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's a person that I would love to collaborate with in the future.
Yeah, I highly recommend him, and it was just it was just so eye-opening. So that being said, what would be things that you think people could do to prevent seeing you, essentially?
Yeah. So what we stress in every eval is SDS. So stress, diet, sleep. How are you managing your stress? Are you doing it through exercise? Are you doing it through alcohol, vaping? Are you doing it through bad habits, right? So let's try and get your habits on track to manage your stress, keep cortisol levels down, inflammatory factors down, and let's put your body at the best advantage it can.
Just a question on that. What increases cortisol levels?
What increases cortisol
Yeah,
levels?
so for people that don't know, cortisol is the fight or flight hormone, but talk to me just about that. Like, I'm curious. What are things that increase them so that you can obviously stop doing them?
Exactly. So our body likes to wax and wane between our sympathetic responses and our parasympathetic responses, right? So like you said, sympathetic is fight or flight, and that has to do with a high cortisol release, which is good. We want cortisol. We need it to live, and it has a lot of good stuff. But when we're living in New York and we have a type A personality and it's go, 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 and we're getting 5 hours of sleep and we're drinking 5 cups of coffee a day, we have those increased inflammatory factors that are associated with that cortisol release. So making simple, healthy lifestyles between managing your stress. Do we meditate? Do we take time to exercise? Is it yoga? What works for you are going to help keep those down along with our diet, right?
Very interesting. So SDS, so stress, diet, and what was the third one?
Sleep.
Sleep. What are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts on diet? Because I think I interrupted you on after the first step.
So diet, we try and keep it simple. We use a combination of the plate method and reaching some of your macros. So the plate method is a simple way to look at your food on a plate. Half of it is going to be nice, green, dark, leafy, colorful vegetables. Quarter of it's going to be your lean protein. Another quarter is going to be a nice complex carb. If you keep your plates like that, you tend to be in pretty darn good shape. I know there's 100 different diets out there, and we can talk for hours about it, but that's a nice, easy example. And the second is hitting your macros. So oftentimes if someone comes in with an injury, we're stressing protein. Do you have an adequate protein for your body to be at an advantage to heal yourself, right? So a general rule of thumb is when you're injured, you want to consume 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if I weigh 215 pounds and I have patellar tendinopathy from running, I should be trying to get 215 grams of protein a day.
Wow, very interesting. Just to touch on diets briefly. I find that topic very interesting because, again, my homesteader mentality, and I'm also a big history fan. So looking back on history, it's interesting to see the way people looked. And for example, I'm a big World War II history buff. I find that time period very interesting. You look at a lot of these guys that were joining the service, and they almost looked like they were, they probably were a little bit didn't have all the nutrition they needed because they were coming out of the Great Depression. But a lot of these people were super, super, super thin. And you're like, these are the guys that won the war. And they were like 6 foot tall and like 140 pounds. But I think a lot of it, that time period was the first time we just started with like the processing of foods and like the oh, how can we like can them? Not even can. I'm not saying canned meat is bad, but like the dehydrating of the eggs that they were shipping over. But prior to that, like it was all whole foods,
Yeah.
and people were pretty thin, and it's pretty interesting just to see like you really don't have to manage a lot of things when you eat not processed stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is
No, you're right. And then
my rants.
anything that's in a wrapper it's tough to find ingredients with less than 3 things on the label,
Yeah,
It's almost impossible.
absolutely. So yeah, last. Let's talk about sleep though. So the third S, SDS.
So sleep, we're trying to have people obtain quality sleep and then quantity of sleep. So I'd rather you get 5.5 hours of high quality sleep that's uninterrupted and your heart rate's dropping nice and low with some heart rate variability, and then adding on your hours on top of that. So it's seeing where that person's at. Is it interrupted from having a newborn child? We might not get the best quality, so let's spend some more time trying to sleep. Or is it someone that's does not have a newborn child, there's no interruptions, and they just can't fall asleep? How is that working? Are they having caffeine too late in the day, etc.?
Yeah, very interesting. So let's talk. One of the last things I want to talk about would be systems for you. So are there any particular programs or systems or even devices or apps that you find that working like really help manage your business or run your business?
Yes. So the one app that we'll shout out is PT Everywhere. PT Everywhere is our electronic medical record system that we do everything on. It's our way to send out documents to patients to get their medical history. It's HIPAA compliant. We fax through it, we email through it, we message our patients through it, we provide them their home exercises through it, and it's just a nice encompassing platform that keeps things clean for our business. It tracks all of our reports, our patient data, and everything.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
This might be a naive question, but how do you, can you, if I'm questioning, maybe other people question, how do you differ as a physical therapist than a lot of these things that are popping up, like the stretch labs and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think the way that we differentiate ourselves is in our results, in the sense that if you're coming to us with pain, we're taking the time to identify the true root cause of your pain and getting you out of it quicker than anyone else around. And that's our goal, is for you to reach your goals as fast as you can.
Very interesting. Well, what do you see? Is there anything that you see next? Opening new locations or taking on more employees, or what's the next goal for you?
Our next goal is to increase our hybrid model, meaning we want to become a more viable option for people online to seek care from across the country,
Wow,
and hopefully get results faster without wasting time in in-person visits.
very interesting.
You know.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure hearing your story. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.